the amount of people that are upset with this chapter and just the last chapter and kind of this finale of JJK is just reaching nuclear levels. I mean, this meme alone pretty much describes the current mindset of the JJK fandom, or at least what the vocal part of the community is saying, and that is JJK's ending is not good. Now, this isn't my words, this is just what I've collectively seen. A lot of people legitimately have not been liking these latest chapters of JJK, and having people just straight up, trying to compare the ending of JJK to Attack on Titan, basically saying it's a really bad ending, or people saying that it has a, worse ending than anything they've ever seen in Shonen. It's brought a lot of debate and discussion to why can't Shonen manga in general have a good ending. And honestly, that is quite a debate, quite a discussion to have, because to be fair, there is some good endings to some Shonen, Weekly Shonen Jump series. I mean, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is a very good example. I would say Dragon Ball is a pretty good example. Hell, even JoJo. Multiple endings at that, for multiple parts. Really, really good conclusions. So, I mean, it can be done, but endings are incredibly difficult. Probably one of the hardest things to do. And so, when this chapter came out, obviously, there is a lot of people that are legitimately upset with the direction JJK has now went in just this chapter alone. And let's dive head first into that. So first off, let's just look at this conclusion. This is the end of Sukuna. Like, this is the last time Sukuna will be alive within the story of JJK. And the reason why we know this is because Megumi himself at the beginning of this chapter confirms to Sukuna when he's talking inside his head, he's like, you're scared, Sukuna. You're scared of dying. Because you realize that once these 19 fingers are gone, that one finger that remains will not be strong enough to pull your soul to it, so you're going to basically die. Pretty much just straight up saying that this is truly the end of Sukuna. And so Sukuna goes out like a giant blob or a pile of poo. That's literally what he goes out as. And I'm going to tell you my thoughts in a second on how I feel about all this, but I'm talking about the community's thoughts of it first. So basically, the community doesn't like this conclusion of Sukuna, of what he turns into. People's like, this is your GOAT, this is your peak villain, etc. And, they're doing cross comparisons with a bunch of different villains, etc. because of how Sukuna currently looks. And, to be fair, most villains, when they're going down within Shonen especially, they do look pretty pathetic. They do. But I will say, Sukuna's being taken down like this, it is very reminiscent of Envy from Fullmetal Alchemist, and take that as you will. I will say there is definitely some similarities there, especially with just how prideful Sukuna has been for pretty much the entire story. And to see him go down like this is pretty hilarious, honestly, to me personally, just seeing how someone so strong, the strongest sorcerer in history, literally ends up basically a pile of slime and just, he disintegrates, he dies. It's just like, wow, what a poetic way for Sukuna to die. Anyways, though, getting back into the main thing, besides obviously the conclusion of Sukuna, one of the big complaints that a lot of people are having is this: Urame and Hikari's fight. Now, I briefly talked about this in my video I made about 3 days ago, talking about the leaks that came out that kind of confirmed pretty much where the chapter was going to go. But basically, yes, this chapter, the latest chapter of JJK, does officially confirm that Hikari and Urame's fight has come to a close, and the entire fight that's been ongoing for like 40, 60 chapters now was entirely off-screen. Like, completely just off-screened. It was the Blackbeard hockey, off-screen hockey. That's literally what this is. Like, we legitimately did not get anything really with the fight, which is pretty sad, because one of the reasons why there's so many people that are sticking to this discussion and why they're very upset with this point within the story is because Hikari came out of nowhere and became quite a fan favorite as a character for the community. I mean, hell, you've probably seen the gifs and the memes, etc. from Hikari. He is a crazy fun character. I mean, he really does bring a lot of joy in life, and so it makes sense why a lot of the community was excited to see another fight from him and see him go up against basically someone that pretty much worships where Sukuna walks. And it's like, we wanted to see where that fight would go with Urame, and being an ice user, it's just like, okay, how's it going to be used? We're pretty curious to see how the fight will actually take place, and, who would actually come out on top and win. But we fast forward, to the end now, and we did not really get anything with the fight. All we know is that it's pretty much a tie here, that they both were just fighting tie. They're both shirtless for whatever reason. Take that however you will. But basically, Urame spouts out a few things like, oh, the only reason why you guys won is because you're lucky. And, the reason why Sukuna lost is because he was incarnated in a body instead of actually his original body. Pretty much saying that because Sukuna lost, I'm going to delete myself out of the story. I'm going to go down. I'm going to die. And pretty much saying the only reason why you guys won is because obviously Sukuna wasn't his original body. So, effectively ending the fight. Just Urame is like, I'm gonna go down with my lord, which is honorable to a degree. Urame is saying like, if my lord's not here, then I guess I don't have a purpose anymore, and just deletes himself. So that's fine, legit, it's okay. But obviously there is a lot of lost potential here with the character, with just ending their story right here and now, with literally nothing else that really dived into their battle tactics or anything like that. So it's pretty sad. Now, besides that, we move into the next segment, which is Megumi waking up, and we get to see the scars on his face, and FYI, for those that haven't caught on, the reason why Megumi has scars is exactly where Sukuna's eyes were placed. Like, you can literally see that, where, if you look at Sukuna's mask in the last chapter and stuff, literally where the mask was on the body, like where Sukuna was, is where these scars are. So, these are just basically remnants of the damage that Sukuna did to Megumi's body, which is a nice little touch, honestly. I do think that Megumi should have had a lot more damage than just these few scars, but you take how you will. I mean, Nobara is back, so can we really be upset about only a few scars on Megumi? But besides that, Megumi wakes up, and as I talked about when I was discussing the leaks, I see nothing wrong with necessarily this moment within the chapter. Megumi waking up, you have this little callback with, like, Nobara getting into the box, trying to say, oh, I live, and all that. It's a really funny and cute moment. I don't think that this is out of character. This is very in character for these group of characters. So there's nothing wrong with it. The problem I have is that this panel, right here, this page, literally happens right after this, where Urame disappears and Sukuna's a blob. And it's such a 180 of a transition. Like, you have this very thought-provoking moment where, like, Yuji's like, you are me, Sukuna. And it's obviously a callback to Mahito's fight with, with Yuji and all that. It's a really good scene. This is legitimately a good scene. But the thing is that we go from this to straight up, like, Megumi and them waking up. It's obviously an apparent time skip, some form of time skip. An unspecified amount of time has passed. We don't know if it's been a day, a week, months, etc. We don't really know. But all we do know is that there was a time skip and everything's a-okay, and it's just like, huh? Like, it's a very weird transition going from, like, this brutal fight to just instantly Megumi's waking up and everything's a-okay. Now, I've seen some fan theories, people saying that everything going on right now is inside of Megumi's head and this is all fake, etc. Honestly, that'd be amazing if that was indeed the case, but I don't think that's the case. And at the end of the day, this is a shonen, and shonen usually have to have a happy ending. That's just the truth. I mean, think about it. Most shonen do have either a happy ending or leaning towards almost a happy ending. And I don't think in this case, that's what probably Shonen Jump wants Gegi to do. I could be wrong there. But regardless, I do think that this part of the chapter should have been next chapter. I'm just going to be honest. I'm 100% going to be honest here. I think the content that was the second half of the chapter should have been next chapter, but we got to remember there is only 3 chapters left. I mean, when the next chapter comes out, next week there's going to be a break for JJK. The week after, when that chapter comes out, there's only going to be 2 chapters left. And as I discussed, most likely, judging by where this chapter concludes, it concludes with them trying to figure out what's going on with Yuta. It's probably going to deal with whatever's going on with Yuta, in the next chapter, and then whatever happens there will determine what happens in the chapter afterwards, aka, like, if Yuta dies or not, a funeral, whatever, probably some funerals or something, maybe a Gojo funeral, who really knows? But I feel like the chapter after next chapter is going to be something to do with, like, maybe laying to rest people or whatever. And then the final chapter, as we know, is probably going to be an epilogue, and it's probably going to either A, set up a continuation of some kind, which I don't think that's really going to be the case, or it's going to be, kind of a nod to the first chapter of JJK, where Yuji's grandpa passes away. One or the other is potentially going to happen. But, yeah, overall, I think that taking a hard look at, the content of, these chapters, it feels very, honestly, the best word is rushed. It feels rushed. It feels very, very rushed, which is weird. Very weird. And I've talked about this a while back, is that, Gege Akutami is you know, he's definitely a popular mangaka. JJK, very popular. I don't think Shonen Jump forced and rushed him out the door. I don't. It's too popular. It is. It's way too popular. So I don't think this is necessarily Shonen Jump wanting him to get out of the magazine, because obviously after losing such a big series like My Hero Academia, say whatever you want about it, it is a big series, they definitely wouldn't want to lose another heavy hitter. So I don't think this is Shonen Jump trying to push out the old and in with the new, because the new is very uncertain. They don't know if they're going to be able to build a massive following from whatever new is going to come into Weekly Shonen Jump. So I don't think this is necessarily Shonen Jump trying to rush Gege out the door. So the only thing that really comes to mind is two other things. Either it's editor meddling, which once again I don't really think so, but it could be editor meddling, or Gege. Actually, there's two other ones besides that. Gege wanted to end it like this because maybe his health has deteriorated, which we do know he's had some health problems as of late in the last year or so. Or he's always been like this, and this is just how he wanted to end the story. He didn't really have much more to tell. I don't really know. I mean, maybe there was a board meeting. Maybe he sat down around the table with all the executives of Shonen Jump and all that, and he's like, look, guys, I'm going to end my series in about 40 or 50 chapters, or 30 chapters from now, and yeah, just wanted to let you all know. He had to have probably given a notice. There's no way Gege Akutami didn't give some form of warning to the magazine that the series was going to be ending in a specified amount of time. And so I wonder, upon this announcement maybe internally, and once again, this is just a theory, okay? This is not confirmation, this isn't proof, just me discussing it as a theory. I wonder if, like, behind the scenes when he did this announcement, he got so preoccupied with drawing Sukuna and glazing Sukuna and showcasing all the characters fighting Sukuna that he lost track of time to some degree, and then he was like, oh crap, there's only like 6 chapters left. Hey guys, 5 chapters left, I gotta conclude this fight. And it feels like Sukuna's fight, honestly, ends very abruptly. It does. I mean, once again, the man needed to go down, that's no problem. I talked about that in the last chapter review. But it does feel like Sukuna just got defeated, not because he was defeated by the characters, but he got defeated because the deadline defeated him. That's what it feels like. It feels like literally it's the Shonen Jump deadline that defeated Sukuna and nothing else. And I think that is legitimately unfortunate, because it kind of feels a little bit unsatisfying. And it reminds me a lot of how people felt with Madara Uchiha when he was defeated in the original Naruto manga. It feels very similar. Now, obviously, there's differences, but I do feel like there was a lot of fans that were definitely cheated. I know people were getting tired of the Sukuna glazing and all that, but even then, he definitely deserves some form of conclusion. And I feel like his conclusion, I mean, yes, I did talk about, this chapter. I like this conclusion here, but just, it feels very abrupt and just so sudden. It felt like we are missing some in-between chapters here. Maybe like 1 or 2 chapters that could have given more detail to this, but obviously we're not going to get that. Which gets into the next thing. A flashback. I know people have said Sukuna doesn't need a tearjerker backstory. That's fine. But there is a lot of lost potential to really dive into just truly how menacing Sukuna was if we would have got a backstory. And the reason why I think this would have been important is that Uraume themselves literally talk about that. The reason why Sukuna lost is because of his incarnation and nothing else. So it's like, it would have been nice to have a comparison of actually how Sukuna was in history to where he's at right now. And then be like, yeah, Uraume makes a great point. Like, yeah, it makes a great point why the man was brought down. Because it's not that he lost because he is weak. He lost because just the body couldn't keep up. And I think that would have been a nice comparison if we would have had some form of backstory to Sukuna. But like I said, we did not get that. So legitimately all around, it's a very unsatisfying stuff here and there that could have been if Gege was given maybe 2 or 3 chapters to really dedicate to some of this stuff. But once again, we're not going to get that. So it leads into this very lukewarm conclusion of JJK that a lot of people are having problems with. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is the worst ending I've ever seen. I'm not going to lie, it's not. But I do see why people are upset, especially when it's just been so heavily discussed and dived into and dissected for years at this point. To end like this, it's understandable why it's very underwhelming for a lot of people. And anyone that says they can't understand why it's underwhelming, I think is a little bit blind. Like, I'm just going to be honest. It's understandable. You can definitely feel some of the rush nature in it. I definitely don't think it's as rushed as My Hero was in some areas. But this finale does feel rushed. It feels like it's not even trying to answer everything. It's more or less just going to a conclusion as quickly as possible. That's what it feels like. But I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. May all of you have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy the video, leave a like. It does help me out a lot. Chibi out.